Great show indeed. We have one of the most requested guests on this show. Now, as you know, we always have expert stage hypnosis performers. Tonight's guest is a performance hypnotist of a different type. She's a world-renowned expert in her field. She's an amazing hypnotist, hypnotherapist, author, coach, trainer, you name it, she has done it. And she's a fantastic person as well. And she lives in the center of the hypnosis universe, which, as some of you American people will not know this, but that is Huddersfield, a town in Yorkshire that seems to have more hypnotists than kind of anything else, than Yorkshire puddings, I believe. So please make some noise, have your questions ready. I know some of you have been really keen to meet today's guest, so please make her feel very welcome on the other side of this. And there she is. Please make that applause emoji on the keyboard for the one and only Kaz Riley. Please make her feel very welcome. Kaz, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm very, very happy to see you and to be here.
It's great to see you. It's the amazing thing with modern technology. We can connect people from around the world. And to be honest, if I shouted, you could probably hear me from here. So if the internet goes down, we can just shout at each other. There we go. A couple of quick hellos as well. Oh, there we go. Natasha Stanley says, hey, only been asking to get her on for the last year. Carl Stowe says, hello, Kaz, and Roy Miller has brought the applause up as well. Fantastic to have you on. Like I say, one of the most requested guests to have on the show. I mean, what first brought you to hypnosis?
Well, believe it or not, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would love to tell you. Well, I mean, there's my journey through hypnosis, but it was really started with Scooby-Doo when I was very, very little. And there was an episode of a clown with, I think he got a swinging watch and he was going around hypnotizing. He was a kind of an evil clown hypnotist. And it just really caught my imagination. And, you know, that was probably the first kind of spark. So, yeah, we can blame Scooby-Doo for everything else that has happened since that moment. But yeah, Scooby-Doo, which is probably not the answer you were expecting.
It wasn't, no, it wasn't. But weirdly, there's still lots of clown hypnotists out there with pocket watches, so nothing's changed too much. Brilliant. So, I mean, you talk about the pocket watch and the kind of Scooby-Doo stuff. Hypnosis has lots of myths, misconceptions, and all types of stuff like that. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of that through your career. You are one of the most, probably one of the busiest hypnotherapists, hypno coaches and trainers that's out there. And we've discussed this many times ourselves. You're a hypnotist that walks the walk, that was, you know, had a full practice for 20 years before you started training people. You're an expert at what you do, that there's in no doubt whatsoever. But I'm sure you've seen some crazy things over those years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of crazy. And, you know, both in my office, actually, or some of the questions that you get asked, and some of, you know, just some of the things that we see around in the hypnosis world, isn't there? You know, some of the things that are out there on the internet. You know, I always say, you know, for those people that don't know, my speciality is working with sexual issues. And I always say, you know, we talk about myth busting in hypnosis, and I end up, there is many myths about sex and hypnosis. It's probably, so I spend, I think, probably half my time myth busting about one or the other. But yeah, I mean, some very interesting and crazy things out there with the hypnosis world, and also in my office. You know, it's hypnosis is a crazy job in whatever capacity you do it, isn't it? You know, it's yeah.
So yeah, Natasha says, I have a feeling to most people, Kaz's everyday life is crazy.
It's
I mean,
it's certainly, yeah, there's lots of interesting things and interesting topics to work with when you work with taboo subjects.
yeah, and
Um,
that's the fascinating things, especially like you do the kink friendly therapy stuff and the kink friendly hypnosis. I mean, it's a great field and so untapped for years, because I think that's an area that had loads of people, kind of thought it was something else, if you know what I mean. And to actually deal with that on a serious and professional level really, has helped you make a massive name for yourself. You are the world expert in that field. I mean, talk about kind of presenting that. Because I know I'm a British male, so talking about weird sexual things to an audience would cause me to have massive anxiety, I think, kind of going down that route. So to present that type of subject,
mm.
how do you go about that?
Well, I embrace my Yorkshireness on every level, even with my my crockery. But it's about being really frank and direct.
Yeah,
And if there's one thing that we are here in Huddersfield is frank and direct, isn't it? We're known for that within the UK, but it's really truthfully, it's about being so frank that you can be open. So
yeah,
we're breaking down taboo. So just in the same way that we might talk about hypnosis in a really frank and open way, and we tell it as it is, it's we do I do exactly the same as that. So it's about, really kind of not beating around the bush, if you can pardon the pun. It's very much about, just kind of, being so open that it's not shocking
yeah,
almost. I don't go out to shock. I think that's the thing. Often when you talk about something or a subject that people can find shocking, to do it in a non-shocking way is quite an art
yeah,
in itself, because it's not there to offend people or to upset people. It's there to help people to kind of see that the things that we deal with, hypnosis is actually part of everyday life, whether we like it or not, when we look at advertising and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah.
sex is part of everyday life. And
Well, maybe not
that's
every day.
something. Well, our sexuality is, isn't it? Most people would hope it was part of their everyday life, maybe. But yeah, and then when we're talking about things like kink friendly things, so we're talking
Mm,
about things that a lot of people are out there. Really, what I'm working with is people just being themselves,
yeah,
and it's allowing people that space to be themselves, which weirdly, that's what happens with stage hypnosis too. They're not doing kinky things, but they're given a headspace
yeah,
to explore whatever, whether that's their what it would be like if their shoe was really a phone or an exotic
yeah.
animal, or all the cool things that you stage hypnotists do.
To get to experience a few moments without the inhibitions and judgment from other people. So, and
Mm.
I mean, we've talked about this in the past as well, that there was a time when the therapy world really looked down on the stage world. But I think it's so important for both of those to work together. I know you do demonstrations and talks on the power of hypnosis, which is a an effectively a stage show in and of itself.
Mm.
How important do you think that is for hypnotherapists that are out there that want to promote their practices, that want to promote their services, the importance of getting on a stage and demonstrating it in a positive way?
It's not important, it's essential. It's essential to them having a good business
Yeah.
and to building rapport, and also for their confidence, because, and I always say to all of my students, go and train with a stage hypnotist. I mean, I know I came to you for some private lessons at one point, just to really start to get my head around some stuff. And I've been and trained with other people, because that performance also, it translates into the therapy room. But in
Mm.
terms of doing a demo, and the way I kind of describe when we do demos, it's not stage hypnosis. We don't, more often than not, we've talked to people about what we're going to do. We're doing very simple things, but to make it there with that kind of pizzazz and that kind of impact, to kind of make people sit back and look and go, wow, and be curious. That's what we're trying to do, is
Yeah.
create curiosity
Yeah.
in this thing that could possibly help them. So it's for us, it's a lot easier in some ways, because it's just part of the presentation that we're giving, where the stuff that I go and see stage hypnosis, you guys blow my mind, the stuff that you do, But, but for all, I would say to any, therapeutic hypnotherapist, if you like, or hypnotist, to go and do that training and to learn how to do that, and then to do it confidently.
Yeah.
And actually, even every session that you do is a performance, really. I in my office, I'm well known for producing at times a swinging watch, or the real cliches, but being able to do that really well, or to show somebody that their hand can be stuck to their knee or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It does that. And it's I just see Natasha says it's stage hypnosis without the comedy skits. Sometimes it is, but actually it can still include comedy. This is another thing, isn't it? There has to be laughter in the therapy room as well. So absolutely, important, yes, but even more so, I think it's absolutely essential to every hypnotist toolkit is to be able to do some kind of powerful demonstration, stage hypnosis, or whatever it may be. Hands down, we all need to be able to do that.
When you talk then about your therapy room being your stage, your therapy room is a great example of that, because it's dressed perfectly. You've got the purple walls, you've got the pocket watches on the side. Everything in there is in and of itself a suggestion towards trance, towards hypnosis. All of those things are creating that curiosity in that person's mind. And you have the single best therapy chair in the world. So, and that's the big purple wingback chair, which is absolutely amazing.
It's a shame I'm not in there tonight. The internet was being a bit sticky, so I came home and in my I'm in my sound booth this evening. But I know we've sat you in that chair, it is cool, and it's all about suggestion. It's all about expectation as well, isn't it? Where we've got there's a cool wingback chair. There's all these suggestions. There's even some really cliche things. I am a collector. I like hypnotic things anyway. All the old-fashioned kind of spinny wheels and spirals and all that kind of stuff. But occasionally I do get them out and use them as well, because why not? For some clients, that's what they expect, and it's just super cool. Yeah, the best James Bond. Yeah, I do sometimes look like I should have a cat or something on there and give out an evil laughs out of my chair. But no,
I'll get rid of John's comment to stop any other hypnotists from realizing that John is the secret photographer. That I said to John, I says, John, you've done an amazing job on my pictures, but I'm never going to recommend you to anybody. But I know I recommended you or John to you. And I love the pictures that he did for you as well. Yeah, he is an absolutely amazing guy, John, bless him. So yeah. You mentioned, what were you saying? You mentioned something then that I can't really want to touch on, and I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, about the old-fashioned playing up to people's expectations, and I think that's so important. I think a lot of times people come to a therapist office with this preconceived belief that this is what hypnosis is going to look like. And then the hypnotherapist spends 20 minutes or half an hour undoing all of that expectation and belief and saying it's not going to be like this. It's going to be whale noises and feeling very relaxed for an hour. And not really testing the trance at the end. And so I think it's so important to kind of nod to that kind of creative, the thing that's going to excite their imagination.
Absolutely. And do you know what? So often I get people that arrive in my office and they have seen so many different kinds of therapists. They've been with all the kind of what I call them the nodding dog kind of therapists that sit and, ask them how they feel about something that obviously they feel bad about, as they wouldn't be in the therapist's office in the first place. And all that kind of stuff. And actually, if we talk about even just a pattern interrupt, they walk in somewhere. My office is deliberately not set up like a clinical therapist office. It's got really kind of, well, just interesting things. It's a nice place to be. People walk in and they're like, wow, it's so nice in here.
Yeah.
But then when we do that, of course, what we're starting to do is to create a bit of magic for them. And, if we can, even when we're dealing with, really serious things, I deal with a lot of trauma and, all the kind of really seriously nitty-gritty therapy kind of things, is, we can still do that within that kind of setting and with humor as well. So we're not making fun of the clients, obviously, but we can still we don't have to be so serious. And
Yeah.
actually, when we look at most of the things that we work with as therapists, what we're trying to do is to help them find that playfulness again. People have lost their shine, their sparkle, their playfulness. You know, that's what anxiety and stuff does to people. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to be in a place that will start to kind of invite that magic back into their minds, I guess.
Yeah. And if you can look at a problem from the past and look at it in a different way, look at it in a way that then makes you laugh about it, then you are healed. You know, if you can look at something that used to make you cry or cause you stress, and then it can make you laugh, then that is healing of itself. When we talk about stages, you have presented and performed hypnosis on stages around the world now. Vegas, you're a regular in Vegas. You're a regular at many, if not all, of the conferences around the world. And I know you've also presented at some unusual venues here in the UK.
Yeah.
How was that?
Well, the unusual venues.
The unusual venue.
Okay, really interesting because there are so many. So obviously things like your clinical conferences and stuff, that's always fun. And then also, you know, I'm a big believer in taking hypnosis to the people and taking hypnosis within my niche to where people are. So I've also performed and given demonstrations at places like fetish clubs and all that kind of stuff, which is really interesting because you just got a really interested bunch of people who are purely themselves, and suddenly you give them or show them something that they can either use within their lifestyle, but also where there's a therapy that's available to them where they can simply be themselves, where they can dress how they want, they can be who they want, they don't have to hide anything, which when you think about therapy outcomes, these are all things that will help you. So, you know, it's cool to do those kinds of things. And you know what? It's a load of fun, you know, when you've got a group full of people who are unashamedly themselves, then, you know, you're in a great place to get some really great clients. I mean, they're amazing clients to work with because usually they're really open to things being different and to trying different things to get the result that they want, to get the therapy outcome that they want. It's you know, it's a lot of fun. But it's interesting when I tell people that I go to these places to give demos, but you know, if you've got a niche, take your thing, take the thing that you do to the people. It's simple.
It's solid marketing. You know, that's your niche, that's that market. Then go there and tell those people. It just makes complete and utter sense. And I think the way that you deliver it, the person that you are as a therapist and as a person, makes that work really well. I think I would struggle to do the same in that type of environment because I'm a middle-aged male. So automatically, I have this thing for stage hypnotists that have and some guys do it and it's fine, but it's just not for me, where you've got an old fat hypnotist with a young pretty girl in his hands and he's under their powers. And I think there's such a kind of misconception of that balance within hypnosis, especially for males, that I try and step away from that a little bit. And so again, I think you being you, it was perfect alignment to make that work really well.
And I guess the thing as well with that, Grant, it's slightly different. So because what I'm doing is giving a demonstration, then often it's about helping somebody overcome. So say the classic one that is the hypnotic orgasm, isn't it? Where, you know, that could cause a lot of problems. You know, we've got consent and all kinds of stuff going on there. People can be embarrassed when, you know, they come out of hypnosis at the other side, and there's all sorts of stuff. But if I'm teaching a class about helping yourself become more orgasmic, for example, with the power of hypnosis, then everybody that's there, for one, is interested in that. So we've kind of got rid of a lot of that kind of seediness about it.
Yeah.
And it's not about me giving them orgasms. It's about me helping them how to become orgasmic, understanding the power of their mind within that, to then so that they can then use that and they can overcome the blocks to that. So it's still a hypnotic orgasm, but the intention and the purpose behind it is very different. In that case, it's not for laughs and entertainment.
Yeah.
It's about education. And I think that's where, my kind of world and your kind of world collide actually really well. It's stage hypnosis, if you like, but with the intention of helping people understand, especially women, their bodies better,
Yeah.
rather than doing it to get a laugh, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's weird because done in the right setting, I think like the hypno orgasm is a great kind of phenomena to produce and has so much therapeutic value and so profound. I think done on stage sometimes, and now don't get me wrong, I do, my shows are squeaky clean these days, but I've done that in the past, and I hate the fact that like I have a video on YouTube when I did it years and years ago, and it's one of the most popular videos, and again it's again because of the dynamic, and I don't like that, but it's interesting that the same skit can be delivered in a very similar way, but just feels so different. And I do think certain things, like you said, it's how they feel afterwards. It's how their partner feels. It's all that. It's done in the right environment.
Absolutely. I know I have a tube, and
we've lost you. Kaz, if you can hear me, if you just refresh your browser and come back in. I did tell her it might freeze if she was pulling a silly face, and that seems to be what happened. So I'll just talk for a couple of minutes while Kaz gets ready. So guys, if you are enjoying this talk as well with Kaz, let me just put up a link. That is a link in the comment section to Kaz's website, and there's a link there to Kaz's book, which is called Woman, which is a fantastic book, a must read for anyone in the hypnosis and therapeutic environment to kind of really understand and embrace your sexual pleasure. But it's a fantastic book as well. Hopefully we'll get Kaz back in a second. Seriously trying to stop myself commenting. Yes. So let's just chat for a few minutes whilst we're going. Guys, if you have any questions as well that you want to put to Kaz, then please do feel free to bang them up in the comments section, and she will be able to answer them for you as well. She's popped back in now, and I'll bring her back on screen. There we go. I told you it would freeze when you pulled a silly face. You were kind of sideways for a second.
It's all right. I've normally got an interesting expression on my face. So.
it never, like on Zoom meetings or anything like that, it never freezes when you look really like a really cool position. It's always when it's some kind of randomness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Carl Stoll says it's brilliant. I kind of gave a bit of a quick plug for your book. I mean, tell us about the book. I know you had some challenges on Amazon with that when it first came out.
I know, absolutely. So yeah, the book is you may have already said when I disappeared. So it's called Woman: How to Find, Understand, and Embrace Your Sexual Pleasure. And Amazon somehow took my therapeutic book and put it in the erotica dungeon. So I got dungeoned, which sounds kind of exciting, and you would think maybe me with my speciality would find that exciting, but I can tell you it's not much fun when you're in the Amazon dungeon, because basically it means that your book becomes unsearchable. So unless somebody knows exactly what they're searching for and they put it in the book category, you're kind of blanked out, not for innocent eyes kind of nonsense.
Wow.
And that was like that for 2 months, and I went backwards and forwards with Amazon KDP to try and get that rectified, which was about actually the cover image and also an image within the book, which is a biological line diagram. So, really nothing erotic, and of course what it meant, anybody that would have bought it in the erotica section would have been grossly disappointed, because it's not an erotica book. Anyway, me being me, me, where I'm a bit like, we're similar kind of people. We find a way, don't we, Grant? We're never easily, that phrase, is it not get knocked down 7 times, get up 8 or something?
Exactly.
Probably is a motto for both of us. So I thought, well, I'm not having this, even though they kind of said to me, if you contact us any more about this, we're going to block you.
Wow.
So I'd spent 2 days on the internet, and I managed to get hold of Jeff Bezos's email address, and I emailed him directly, and didn't kind of rant or say what it was about. I just put the tagline in the line, you know, the subject line, that's the word I'm trying to think, email technology, you know what I'm like, that just said Amazon algorithm discriminating against female sexuality, and sent him that, and then with an explanation. And the kind of urban myth is if you can catch his attention with a kind of a decent kind of line, if you like, he'll look into it. And if he thinks it's worth looking into, he just sends it to the department with a question mark, which means you need to deal with this now.
Yeah.
And apparently that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
And they reviewed it, and within hours, all the restrictions were gone. And you know, so yeah, so it just goes to show, doesn't it? Don't give up. Sometimes if
Yeah.
you know something, just to kind of carry on. So I took on Amazon and won. I mean, that's
Well
kind
done.
of a kind of a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
it's not only that, it is kind of good for marketing as well. I mean, I know when I saw it, everyone was kind of, you know what I mean, we were behind you. We were, you know what I mean, we were ready to protest on the streets with you, Kaz. Do you know what I mean? But I was going to get my feminist flag out and everything.
there you go. There you go. But yeah, I mean, it's and it like anything, you know, it just goes to show, and this kind of leads in as well, I guess, to some of the other things. So for me, it was great. What seems to be negative or a story is great for marketing, and also it's helped me promote hypnosis as well.
Yeah.
And I know, like, recently we've got this new film that's come out called Hypnotic, which is on Netflix, which I've seen loads of people up in arms about. All I see is people contacting me because it piques their curiosity.
Yeah.
So when there's any kind of controversy, it just piques people's curiosity, which helps all of us, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
You know? So
if anything, I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't either darker or more sinister to get it, because it was kind of like, it started and I saw the trailer and I thought, oh, the hypnotherapists are going to be up in arms about this. There's going to be pitchforks. And then I watched it, and it was very 50 Shades of Grey, if you know what I mean. It was very tame in that sense. I didn't think the acting did it any good. And I thought if it had been a bit more dark or a bit more sinister, then people really would be talking about it kind of the next day. But, you know, on the back of that, you know, I've had inquiries, you've had inquiries, I'm sure every other hypnotherapist had inquiries, because that's the thing. When people have a block in their life that they can't consciously or logically figure out and fix themselves, do you want the softly, you know, this might work, take these tablets 17 hours a day and blah, blah, or do you want the thing that's going to come in like a sledgehammer and fix it like that? And so, and that's not how therapy works.
No, I know, but it's that possibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, to quote I think you had Mariana on recently, you know, to live in possibility is one of the lines that she uses. And what that means is, you know, and this is the thing why, you know, if you're a clinical hypnotherapist, you should be getting to know your stage hypnosis friends, because the amount of referrals that I get from stage hypnosis, because people have seen something, whether people go, you know, well, if you know, if Grant Saunders can make me believe I've got a pet fairy that I need to look after, which he did to my husband, which was just brilliant, I have to say, you know, then maybe Kaz Riley can help me with my anxiety, because it shows them how powerful their mind is. And, you know, this is, again, isn't it, you know, where our two worlds are actually quite aligned. They're not as far apart as certainly I was taught in hypnosis school. I think I had to sign a form at one point telling my school that I would never partake in such a thing as stage hypnosis or I'd be struck off. You know, I'm like, no.
I don't know if it's still the case, but I know a couple of the organisations. I don't know why I do that, but a couple of the organisations.
Well, we know why you do that. Let's be honest.
Won't allow membership if you do performance or entertainment hypnosis, because obviously if you do that, then you're not a real hypnotist. I've had it sometimes at shows. I remember once being backstage And literally, as I like to listen to the audience, like the sound of the audience when they're coming in and sitting down and doing the thing is lovely. And I remember just hearing this woman going, "No, it's okay. If anything goes wrong, I'm actually a clinical hypnotherapist. So don't worry, guys. If anything goes wrong, I'm a clinical." And she was just repeating this. And I kind of thought, what are you doing? And then she's come to me after the show and she's gone, I came to kind of make sure everything would be okay, but you're actually a really nice guy. And I thought, I wanted to go, you're not, you're a bitch. But I didn't. I was very professional about it. But I thought, what a way to prime an audience that something can go wrong than a clinical hypnotherapist saying that.
So
yeah.
Well, I think I always find it fascinating when people go, I mean, to judge something like that, go to learn, to be inspired, to, think, how could I maybe use that in my clinical practice, to just see a master at work. I mean, that's often the way, isn't it? And surely if you're, I believe all the great hypnotists just love all hypnosis. They embrace every aspect of it. And that's what makes you really good. And, so to go and do that, we all get, as I call them, the armchair hypnotists. And I know we've spoken about this before, but you often see that, don't you, on, the people on Facebook or YouTube that are commenting rather than actually doing. Well, fill your boots. We learn a living out of it, and you just sit and comment. So but that's
it's always fascinating. I mean, there's a couple of forums that I'm not very active in, but I do love to watch, and it's amazing to see how. Hypnosis, especially stage side, can be a bit of a boys' club. I'm always trying to get on, female stage hypnotist or female hypnotist, because I don't know if it's something about the misconception of the power of hypnosis that attracts kind of weird men to it. But there's a lot of really weird men involved in the industry. And the comment, it's true. And the comments sometimes in these forums, I just think, it's like, wow, you clearly don't actually do it. It's just a textbook thing. And I think fundamentally that's what's wrong across the whole profession sometimes, because we're not taken very seriously sometimes, as therapists and performers. And I think that's because of the people that are out there that are a little bit. I'll not say who it was, but I had a venue contact me this week that was inquiring about a show, and they've kind of gone, the problem we've got is we had, we'll say, Britain's funniest hypnotist here a couple of years ago, and it didn't do well. So we don't know about risking it. So I've gone, send me who it was, and I'll let you know whether I'm going to risk doing it myself then. And I've looked, and I was like, it'll be okay. And I don't mean that in a terrible way. And this person is someone I've never heard of. And I kind of think in the UK, I know most of the stage hypnotists, especially the ones that are working. And it was just, there's a lot of that fake it till you make it. And even on the therapy side of things, people are they're taught to kind of put it out that you're the world's greatest, fastest. You've got your own technique. You've just finished learning hypnosis, and you've already got your Saunders technique or your Saunders protocol. And a lot of it is pushed towards that way. And I think it does undermine all of us sometimes, that we're not taking that seriously.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. And I know people are told to fake it till they make it. I'm a believe it until you achieve it. And I think that's, so you're doing it. And, because the only way we learn is through practice, is through actually doing it, isn't it? And we don't have to lie or make false claims to do that either. There's nothing wrong. I get lots of new hypnotists and hypnotherapists that will, ask me about that. And I said, there's nothing wrong with being new. And there's nothing wrong with saying that you're new either. It's just actually getting out and doing that. And I often say, and the thing is as well, and I always say to people, count the number of shows you're doing or count the number of hours you're doing, because actually I know lots of people that have been qualified or been a stage hypnotist for 10 years, but actually they've done 3 shows or they've seen 4 clients. And I've got students that, have been seeing 15 clients a week, and they've probably got, a year down the line, they're really proficient and really good. And, I'm sure people that have been doing 2 or 3 shows every week, and it's all about the actual experience rather than the length of time that you've been doing it or not doing it, it may be.
I don't know why we put in this profession, especially, but I suppose as a society, we put this, or I've been this for 20 years. And it's like, well, but have you? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like one client every month or, a couple a week is not you doing it for 20 years. It's just, but I think we identify as hypnotists. So yeah, I kind of get that.
No.
So Natasha Stanley says, I saw you reply to some know-it-all woman on a thread the other day, made me laugh. That must be you, not me.
Okay, I don't know. I just reply. I just say, well, my Yorkshire bluntness isn't just in the therapy room, it's just generally in life, but that's
Yeah.
how I operate. And actually, when we think about when we're working with suggestion and we're working with, even though we use metaphor a lot, probably, which can be quite ambiguous, sometimes when we think direct suggestion is such a powerful thing,
Yeah.
it makes sense to just use it in life. So, and of course, we have the advantage of having the excuse of saying, well, we're Northern British, so it's just the way we are. We don't know any better.
I love, especially like America. I mean, you go to America quite a lot now, but I mean, there's something about that experience of being Northern and going to America. Because I remember literally, I got hugged by, I think it was Catherine Hickland, sorry, just for my accent, because I sounded English and posh. And I'm like, but I'm Northern. I'm not posh by any shape of the imagination. And I think the Americans just look up to us so much more on how we speak. I think what we do as hypnotists goes so much further over there as well.
I think it's novelty, isn't it? So we all like, as soon as we hear, if we hear an accent actually that's different, it's novelty, isn't it? So we listen, and hopefully if we're saying something half sensible, then that also helps. So it's our accents, but it's also how we are, whether regardless of where you're from, if you're nice and respectful to people, then that helps too, doesn't it? But I absolutely love working in America, and I have a lot of American clients. I feel very blessed to have them. They're fun to work with, and and it's just interesting to see, especially with my speciality, working globally, actually, just how many different takes or opinions or insights, and how these things and the myths that we have around hypnosis and sex actually are viewed very differently around the globe, which is fascinating in itself. That's kind of interesting.
I think it's very kind of good of the times as well, with COVID and everything that's happened. It's kind of forced therapists to go online. It's forced people to go online. And I think, me personally, I think it's so much safer for me to get that help, to reach out to somebody via Zoom or however it's done. I think for me that's safer than going to an appointment where I'd get the anxiety of going to the appointment. So I think Zoom and online and virtual appointments now, I think they make it so they take away those barriers that people have in order to get the therapy and the help that they need, and especially dealing with such sensitive subjects like what you deal with.
Absolutely. Well, there's two things. One is that because we've had to do that. I mean, I was online anyway, but what it's done is it's made people that worried that it wouldn't be effective or it wouldn't work well or whatever it may be, because they've had to do that. Suddenly, it's become what we do.
Yeah.
So now people don't question that. And then the other thing, of course, is if you have a niche like I have, then people are actively looking for that niche. They're actively putting into Google, help with erectile dysfunction or help with anorgasmia, and I come up, and they can access me online. So it doesn't matter where they are in the world. So it makes, when I started out, 20 years ago, the majority of my clients initially came certainly from Yorkshire, then from the whole of England, and now they come from all over the world. And now it makes it accessible. I used to get people that would fly in to come and see me, which was great. But obviously those clients need to have the kind of the finances and the time and all of that kind of stuff to do that. Now, of course, we can just set up an appointment. They can book in, and here we are. like we're talking now, it's very, very simple to do. And that certainly wasn't happening 10 years ago. So it's just, the world is, although we've been locked down in some ways, we've been more connected, albeit online.
Yeah. No, I mean, I always ask guests this as well. But it might be more difficult for you to answer it as such.
Okay.
But I always kind of ask like the most challenging either presentation that you've done, and kind of what you learned from it. And I can imagine like maybe some of the first talks or keynotes or kind of demonstrations you've done. What challenges have you faced with that, and what learnings have you got from that?
Okay. I think initially, actually, the biggest challenge was put up by myself. So when you've got a subject like I have, so, when we're talking about things that people don't normally talk about, and they don't talk about openly, and certainly they don't often talk about publicly, the biggest challenge was actually finding my courage, if you like, to actually get out and do that and start giving these presentations and having the conversations and saying things that people don't normally say, and and then actually taking that out to certain places. So whether that, and that's actually right across the board. So nobody was really talking about that stuff at hypnotherapy conferences, and certainly nobody was going in to, into the local community centres with the WI and talking about that stuff, whatever it may be. And actually both of those were challenging in different ways, but actually the response was great from both.
Yeah.
And so actually the biggest challenge was actually, and I think this is the thing that I've learned, is sometimes it's what we think might happen or what we fear might happen that actually makes it difficult rather than actually doing it. So, what I found was, the kind of, the WI, for those that are watching this that aren't based in the UK, it's the Women's Institute. So, it's groups, they're known as Jam and Jerusalem, but they're actually much more dynamic than that. And they're much more, wider range group, age group than that. But it's about, going talking about something that's relevant. And actually what I've realized is the work that I do is relevant to all adults. So it's just about, I might go and talk about female libido or menopause, and then I might go to a Rotary group and talk about erectile dysfunction and all of that kind of stuff. So it just depends on where you are. But we all have for me, probably the hardest performances that I've done is actually while we've been online, when you can't see people's faces. And that I find, really difficult, because we kind of judge what we're doing by the nods and all that kind of stuff. So teaching online, even though we can reach more people, that in some ways has more challenges because you don't get that kind of interaction. So we all sometimes it's just difficult, isn't it? Or we get the difficult group that, they're kind of doing this, but they don't say anything, or they don't ask, imagine it'd be a bit like not having people come up on stage. Nobody, people don't ask questions and
there's a certain energy of the room that by physically being there, you get that feedback from the audience. You can feel them. And online, that's not there. And scarily, we talk about that kind of dystopian future. I think that's the next step for social media, where you can make it, I think they call it the metaverse, where you can create that connection online that you have in person. I think when that happens, it's going to be a very different world indeed. So a quick question says, I want to know what the strangest, most unexpected reaction she has ever had from someone is.
Oh, well, there's a list.
I can imagine.
There's a list. Oh my goodness. There's so many, really. I guess some of the stuff I had, people come in, and I had one lady that came in and told me that she'd murdered her husband, which she hadn't. But she'd had a murderful thought towards him after finding out that he'd been unfaithful to her, and said, when he comes in here, I'm going to murder him, metaphorically. And he walked through the threshold and then had a heart attack and died. And in her head, that she believed for a year, she believed that somehow she'd kind of manifested his murder. I've had I mean, we all get strange and unwanted, not unwanted, but unexpected reactions in our therapy rooms sometimes, where we get the person that laughs hysterically,
Yeah.
or probably one of the funniest things was when I had a client who logged himself out. It turned out he was a flopper, so he was this was online, and I gave him I put a reinduction trigger in there, gave it to him, and he flopped forwards and hit his head on the keyboard and logged himself out of the Zoom call.
Oh, so
So,
when I thought you said he'd lobbed himself out and was a flopper, and I'm like, what? What?
well, you know, it's with the speciality I have, I guess it's possible.
Yeah.
But no, logged himself out. When he
Right.
flopped
Yeah. That
forwards.
makes more sense.
So I've got a client in hypnosis that's disappeared off my screen because he's gone into hypnosis but logged himself out of the
Yeah.
actual session. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean all kinds of stuff. And then
Do
there's
you
the
get
opposite.
do
Go
you
on.
get confused? Because I mean, I know when you first started talking about this, nobody was talking about it. And for me, it felt like that moment when someone's gone, look, I've invented the wheel, and everyone goes, that's amazing. Before you, anything to do with like sex and hypnosis was all the really weird, you know, again, bald middle-aged men hypnotizing young girls, and it was just a bit strange. So it was all that erotic hypnosis stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of you've come along and looked at it seriously. But then does that have a crossover? Do you find that you get the wrong type of people contacting you for sessions?
Well, you know, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with consensual
Yeah.
erotic hypnosis anyway. So, you know, and it's actually something that I teach sometimes, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer that we have to teach. It's very easy to go, it's the wrong kind of hypnosis, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
that's what we were saying. We have to embrace all hypnosis. The only important thing is that it's done well.
Yeah.
And any hypnosis, if it's done well and it's done with consent, then that's kind of, you know, that's absolutely fine. And you know, I have no issue with that at all.
Yeah.
And what I do, if I get people that contact me and they're looking for erotic hypnosis, which is, you know, if it's something that's kind of out of what I would do, sometimes what they're looking for is an experience, which is again is a slightly different thing. They, you know, they just want to experience something fun with hypnosis that actually might not be erotic, but might not be clinical. So there's that side of it. But you know, I have contacts within the erotic hypnosis world who I can refer to in just the same way that I can refer to somebody if I've got something that's not within my scope of practice, within my clinical field. And, you know, I'm big on not shaming people because they want something different. So it's easy to kind of put the, you know, unwanted. It just means it's not the hypnosis that I do. And
This
then
is
I'll
not the
refer them to the
hypnosis you were looking
person.
for.
Yeah, but here's a person that's great
Yeah.
at that and can do it really well for you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's important because when we talk about sex in particular, shame is such a big part of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm, you know, and I do get contacted by people sometimes that, you know, they're looking more for a female dominant really rather than, you know, a hypnotherapist. But I know people that do that and they do it spectacularly
Yeah.
well. So I'll send them off there and then everybody's happy, aren't they? You know, so
I do think there is some. I mean, I think hypnosis weaves itself into everything in life, from corporate business sales to therapy to entertainment, and especially within that kink community, because it's about, you know, dropping that kind of inner guard in the mind and really opening themselves up to experiences. And, you know, that kind of whole dom sub relationship is very much, you know, there's very suggestive within that kind of mindset. So yeah, it's a fascinating field. And again, you approached it in a way that just made it, not normalized it, that's the wrong word, but it just, yeah, in effect normalized it. It wasn't some middle-aged bloke talking about it, which made it feel seedy. The way that you've done it is just like I say, it was like that reinventing the wheel, and everybody around the world has gone, that's brilliant. And so yeah,
which is, you know, that for me was, you know, when we're talking about things I had to get over, you know, because I did see a lot of people either giving out wrong information. You know, I'm a sex educator as well as a hypnotherapist, and it's important to me that we're giving out good information and doing it in a way that empowers people, rather than, when you look at a lot of the stuff that was out there, it was all about how to attract women or how to be a pickup artist, or, you
Yeah.
know, all that kind of how to give your woman an orgasm in bed. And where I come from, the, you know, actually that's female pleasure is female pleasure, and it's for
Yeah.
us to own and
Yeah.
understand and then share with somebody if we choose to. So I guess it's from a different kind of perspective. But for me, you know, it's all been about breaking down these taboos and breaking down these myths. And also, you know, by, you know, giving people good information and, you know, as you say, normalizing it,
Yeah.
because actually, if we do that, then we're kind of, we take away a lot of, we then help to prevent things like sexual abuse and
Yeah.
sexual assault and non-consensual things, and, you know, all that kind of stuff that, you know, if people have got good information, you know, a lot of that stuff happens because people don't even understand that, you know, it's wrong, you know, in
Yeah.
terms of, you know, not having good consent practices or whatever. So yeah, and to do that, and it's interesting, you know, I one of the other things that I always say, you know, Brene Brown actually had a big influence on that for me, because she wrote and she did this amazing talk, which I'm sure most people around, called The Power of Vulnerability, or um, which was really around shame.
Yeah.
And it was when I first started talking about the work that I did rather than just doing the work that I did, you know, kind of made that transition from just being a jobbing therapist with a good a thriving practice to actually going out and teaching and talking about what I was doing. Then, you know, it was actually that talk that was a real kind of pivotal moment for me, because I realized the reason why I wasn't doing that was maybe you know, maybe it was because I was worried about what other people would think. And I
Yeah.
realized that, you know, as a hypnotherapist, probably the biggest thing that we deal with is helping people not worry about what other people would think. And
Yeah.
actually, like you say, people didn't run away screaming and condemning me and, you know, throwing me out the BSCH and all that kind of stuff. They've actually welcomed it, and,
Yeah.
you know, it's been really good. So yeah, so there we go. I'm going off on my tangents, but you're used to my tangents. Unfortunately, your audience isn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I must admit, I mean, we used to be on a Thursday actually, for the Huddersfield Hypnotic. Was it a
circle or
huddle?
something.
It was
Yeah.
something like that, in one of the weirdest pubs you could ever go into, which had like strange animals on the wall
It's
and
yeah.
really weird oil paintings, and it was such a random place. But yeah, bless them. So, I mean, what's next for you? I know the world's we're kind of not going back into a lockdown, but we're in a weird place at the moment. But
Mm.
next year, conference season's starting again. Have we got another book on the way?
Well, there's lots coming. So I've actually got an app that's been built at the moment,
Brilliant.
which is to go with the original book, the woman book, but we've also got, so it will help people to kind of go through a process where they can access an app over like 6 weeks. They can, just to kind of guide people through some of these processes. There's two more books coming. One is about orgasm, so it's looking specifically at orgasm. The other one is about libido, so more of a deep dive into those. I'm teaching at Richard Nongard's conference in February, so
Nice.
I'm really super excited about that in Florida. I will hopefully be at Hypno Thoughts Live in July, so that's super exciting as well.
Well, if you go into Hypno Thoughts, I know Natasha's going to be there, so I'll send you a photo of what she looks like, and then you can
Okay.
run and hide from her. If you don't come back, I'll know that Natasha's kidnapped you.
So yeah, so you know, I'm hoping, you know, the world at the moment, I know we've got this kind of concern about this new variant at the moment, but you know, I believe that, you know, I suffer from terminal optimism, so I just believe all will be good. That's
Yeah.
until we're told no, we have to think yes. That's how
Exactly.
I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it will be what it will be, and that's there's no point worrying about what could be and all that type of stuff. So let me just put up a link one more time for your book as well, guys. Buy the book. That's a direct suggestion. Buy the book. And if you're interested in, that is Kaz's website. There's a link on there as well. If you're interested in training with Kaz, she's got links on there for that training and all the stuff that she's got coming up as well. There's lots of people out there that will try and sell you training that don't really kind of walk their walk. This is not one of those courses. Kaz is the world expert in this field, and she's a great person too. So there we go. That was the biggest plug we've ever had on the show, I think.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Oh no, thank you for coming on as well. Like I said, probably one of the most requested people to have on the show as well. And so yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. So Kaz, final words to you. If you to give some tips to hypnotherapists or even stage hypnotists that are out there to kind of develop their career, what would it be?
Well, probably back to what we said before, which is if you fall down 7 times, get up 8. And there is no quick fix. There is no fast track. I know you and I have had this conversation many, many times. It's about that hard graft and just keeping and getting on with it and taking, like we've said, is taking what you do to the people that you want to do that. So I always say I sell solutions. I don't go out and sell hypnosis. I don't go out and say, I'm going to come and give you a talk about hypnosis. I'm going to come and give you a talk about hypnosis and menopause or anxiety and hypnosis or whatever it may be. And so that would be it. And just keep going. You've just got to, hypnosis is probably one of the most powerful, amazing, wonderful tools on this planet. We know that, don't we? And it's just not letting anything kind of dampen that passion for the thing that you love, even if you were originally introduced to that by Scooby-Doo. So
and just to reiterate exactly what you said there as well, because I always call it my golden nugget, that like you said about kind of having that patience in the market and persevering, and when it and getting back up and trying again is so important. The amount of stage hypnotists that I see that do a couple of good shows over a period of a couple of years, then go on the forums as the world's best and they know everything. And then they have a bad show, and then they have another bad show, and then it gets into their head, and then they stop doing it. And sometimes it's beyond those bad shows, it's beyond those failures where your success really is. So yeah,
absolutely. We learn by our mistakes, don't we?
Oh well, so they say. I'm testing that theory though. Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to keep making the mistakes and keep learning. Brilliant, Kaz. Thank you very much for joining me. I know you're incredibly busy. Most hypnotherapists or hypnotists are always being quite creative with how busy they are, but you really are one of the busiest hypnotherapists, one of the busiest hypnotists that's out there, and a really nice person as well. So, guys. From me, it is good night. Please show your appreciation for Kaz. Hit that applause emoji in the comment section and buy her book. It's a great investment. So fantastic. Cheers. Thank you very much.